What's up, my ninjas? I'm Strident, and I am back with another video for you. Today I want to talk about the Flash TV show. Man, I am so glad that I stuck around with that show, because in the beginning I was kind of pissed off because the plot and many of the happenings felt like they were just ripping, Milestone and how things went in the Milestone universe. But, upon further investigation, you learn that it's not. Sorry for the pause. But and I'm glad that I actually stuck around so that there was further investigation, and I got to see that, that indeed was the case, that it is something completely different than what you are led to believe initially, when you first start watching. Um, One of the things that I like about the show is that, and that's my chair, so sorry about that. One of the things that I love the most about the show is that they're not afraid or ashamed of the source material. Instead of doing like Arrow and trying to be Batman Begins and trying to dumb down everything, but at the same time trying to reimagine shit that they haven't gotten right yet. And you know my stance on that. Get it right first in the vein of the source material, and then turn around and do your own version of it. And if you can't do that, then you don't need to reimagine these characters. It's just stupid when you start doing that shit. But they did a good job just embracing the weirdness and the convolutedness. I mean, they weren't necessarily convoluted in their execution, because you understand what's going on by the end of the series. And I've watched the whole thing. I haven't missed any episodes. And when I thought I did, I went back and I watched, and yeah, I got the whole story. Um, they're not ashamed of anything, so you get the full feel of what that universe is like. You totally get to understand how crazy comic books can be, and you get a show that translates all that craziness. I mean, it's not too different from a soap opera. And this is why I don't understand the fear and the unwillingness that so many comic properties on film kind of have towards their source material. Um, Even the way his powers look, it's in Arrow, they tone down everything, even how he uses his arrows. If you ever played any game that had um, Ollie in it, he usually pulls out like 3 or 4 arrows at a time. You've even seen Legolas do this shit. Ollie doesn't do it. I think since the first episode, he really hasn't done that much. And I'm like, these are all marks of being an awesome archer. Um, they didn't even upgrade how he uses the arrows to make it more effective and more believable. He's just, TV archer. A TV Robin Hood in modern age as far as his approach. I want them to make things more easier for us to follow, easier for us to see, easier for us to understand, and at the same time, and this is the visuals I'm talking about, at the same time, give us stories that have the complexity and the facets and layers that, a lot of good comic book stories, the classic stories, have. And that's something we didn't get with Arrow, but we got it in spades with the Flash. Shit, Agents of Shield even falls short in this area, because a lot of times it's kind of the show feels relegated to a freak of the week kind of situation. Yeah, there's all the ties to the rest of the Marvel universe, which is good, because they do embrace the craziness of comics, but just the way they embrace it. They embrace it where the world is just made up of things that you know come from the Marvel universe, or that fans would recognize from the Marvel universe, or if you inspect it enough, you'll be like, oh shit, that was this thing that exists in the Marvel universe, and that's good. I'm not dissing that, but it, since I guess since Agents of Shield was not a comic first, I mean there was a Shield comic, but since this show is not based on that comic, the approach is at a disadvantage. And I think that's why a lot of people have jumped. They've left Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and come back and then left and come back. I'm one of them. You know, I left. I watched the first like 6, maybe 10 episodes. It's hard to remember. And then I stopped. I was like, yeah, I'm good. And then I came back and I started watching again. And then I was just like, yeah, I'm good. Same thing with Arrow. The first season was horrendous. The second season was actually decent because Deathstroke was, you know, more interesting than a lot of the other characters. And he's a character I dig. I love that character because the idea of having Captain America as a freaking merc, you know, that's just nuts. And the fact that he was like a scary ass villain for the Teen Titans for a long time, I love that. Um, but you know, it ultimately they did him dirty. I mean, he got beaten by fucking the Arrow and his little sister, who later on becomes Speedy. It was like, come on, guys, seriously? Like, Batman can't beat Deathstroke. And that was another thing that pissed me off, you know, in other media like Arkham Origins. And a lot of people, I think, noticed this. And that's why the game didn't really do as well as the other Rocksteady helmed games. But, you know, anyway, I don't want to go too far off on a tangent. But, oh, excuse me. The point of the matter is, Arrow doesn't take the risks that the Flash does. The Flash had tons of superpowered characters, some that you know, some that you don't know. I'm still waiting for Mirror Master. He better be the season opener for season 2. He better be in there because I don't understand how we got all these other people and not Mirror Master. We even got the Trickster. We even got Heatwave, but we didn't get a Mirror Master episode. We need a Mirror Master episode. I know he'd be an expensive character because you have to have a lot of tech, a lot of reflections, and a lot of interactions with those reflections, but we need him. Just cap off the main rogues so that we can actually, you know, get that in cinematic form. I mean, shit, we got Grodd. You know? We need Ultra Humanite. And they'll probably give us these things, you know? I love the fact that, you know, when you see him using his powers, especially when he pushes himself, you get a better feel for how his powers work, that he pushes himself to do some of the more amazing things that we've seen him do. And I love that. I mean, that's kind of why I've always watched The Flash. It's kind of what I like about him. Even in Justice League Unlimited, you saw him push himself, and then there were, what's the word I'm looking for? You know, consequences for doing so. And I dig that. I love when, you know, the job is not super easy for these characters, when they actually have to kind of go through some shit to get somewhere. And that's what I always bitch about, that is missing from a lot of the stuff that the mainstream finds awesome. And in The Flash, I mean, he's constantly being shat on. I mean, like, Peter Parker thinks he has it bad. This guy just can't get a break. And all he's doing is, you know, good stuff, helping other people, which is the difference between Peter and this guy. Peter, at one point, was selfish. Barry Allen was always helping people, and in the back of his mind, he's trying to help himself, help his dad, you know, clear his dad's name and find out who killed his mom. It's all respectable stuff, you know. They made him a really cool character. I love how initially I hated it. I was like, wow, he's such a young dude, and he's like this Peter Parker-ish type character. And you kind of got that vibe in the beginning. But then in the episode Out of Time, everything got flipped on its head. And you're kind of like, holy shit, time travel? Damn. You know what I mean? Like, for real? We're actually going to embrace one of the more confusing aspects of comics? And they fucking handled it with gusto. It was ridiculous. I'm sitting there watching it, and I'm just like, seriously? Time travel? Like, multiple timelines and explaining the confusing nature of the situation that Eobard Thawne is in. I was just like, what the fuck? Really? So now the possibilities are endless. They literally were like, fuck you, DC. this is what we're going to do with this series. We know what the comics are, but we also understand it's a TV show. So now we can go wherever we want to go with our storytelling, and we will not kind of ruin the existing canon. You know what I'm saying? And they're paying respect to the canon because a lot of things that happen in the books are happening in the show. And that's what I want to see. When I complain about this stuff in other media and on other whatever, this is an example of you doing it the right way. You find a way to visit the material. Number one, from the beginning, they didn't seem to shy away from anything. I mean, shit. The way he was moving, the fact that they cast John Wesley Shipp as his father, who, you know, if you don't know, John Wesley Shipp played the Flash in the 90s TV show. The fact that they cast Amanda Pays as Dr. McGee, same role she played on the 90s Flash alongside John Wesley Shipp. It's just little things like that, you know? I mean, I know, like, in a lot of Batman media, they would have, like, previous Batman play, you know, Bruce's father, or, like, you know, play somebody in like, the Grey Ghost. They had Adam West play the Grey Ghost. But that's what you do when you know that there's a rich history and you want to take advantage of said rich history. That's the way you go about it. You don't go about it trying to kind of play copycat with other characters. I mean, like, I know some people dig Brandon Routh. I don't mind him as an actor, but I swear to goodness he should have been Ted Kord. Everything he does, everything, the way he talks, the way that he acts, and just the role that he's in, it's Ted Kord. But they tell you it's Ray Palmer, and you're just like, wait, what? Ray Palmer is supposed to be, you know, kind of a dork that's in the lab all the time, really smart, but not very, what's the word? He's not, like, warm and inviting and shit. He's very straightforward, very blunt, very, you know, detail and goal-oriented. That's all he's interested in is, you know, I won't say all he's interested in, but he's very interested in whatever the thing is that they're researching, and, you know, figuring out things about that, whatever that thing might be, you know. And I don't know, it's just a different attitude, you know. Having John C. McGinley play him on Justice League was perfect, because just hearing the voice, you see the guy, and you're like, man, if they made a live action, I would love for them to have the Atom played by John C. McGinley. That would be perfect. But I don't know. That's a misstep for me. For some people, it works. His Iron Man suit gets on my nerves. But anyway, we're not talking about Arrow, and we're not talking about, you know, the Atom specifically. We're talking about the Flash. I'm really happy that the show exists, because it shows you that you can do it, much like I've been saying. You can embrace the source material, the comics, and, you know, you don't have to be ashamed of it when you're making a show that's supposed to be for a mass audience. You don't have to dumb down everything because you think that your audience is too stupid to go online and read a little bit about whatever it is that you mentioned. You know what I'm saying? You don't insult the audience that has been reading whatever this comic character, you know, has been through for however many years, you know? Like, I'm in my 30s. I'm 35. I read The Flash while I was growing up. You know, while he wasn't my favorite superhero, he was my little brother's favorite. And I bought a bunch of books so that my brother could read them. And every so often, we read, like, you know, books where the Flash would show up in them. And there were little things, you know, like Panic in the Sky. In Justice League Unlimited, they took elements from Panic in the Sky and, you know, animated them. In, like, the part when everybody dealt with the beam that, the multi-directional beam that Brainiac shot off right after they defeated their doppelgangers. That same situation happened in Panic in the Sky. This is what I'm saying. When you read the material, not only is it giving you things that you can actually, like tools and visuals that you can kind of build on in live action, it's just showing that you respect what gave you a job in the first fucking place. You respect everything about this, not just the name. You know what I'm saying? A lot of like X-Men, they just respect the name. They know that the names will bring people in the seats. I mean, notice how now Singer reads comics and shit, you know? But when the movie was coming out, Bryan Singer was like, don't read any of the fucking comics. You know, like, it's so weird, and I hope that, you know, shows like this approach shows the folks that are making the films that, yes, we can go for another attitude, another direction, and still stay true to all those, you know, the source material of all those other characters. Because not everybody is bleak and dark, and the Flash is kind of more along the lines of what you want Superman to be. You know, it's more of a, he's a character that stands for a lot of hope for a lot of people, and he's not brooding. He cracks a smile like all the damn time. He cracks jokes every now and then. You know, he's a lot more lighthearted than what we've seen with Arrow. And yes, I know Arrow has a lot in common with Batman, but if you've ever read an Arrow comic, you know, and not necessarily the couple dark stories that he's had, if you've read Arrow comics, you know Arrow is most of the time more of a happy-go-lucky character. But when shit hits the fan, if it gets really ridiculous, then he becomes a little bit more grim, because he was one of the leaguers that was like, I'm gonna kill. I don't give a shit. Some people need to die. You know, you can go figure out which books I'm talking about. They're all out there. If you put in Oliver Queen killing, I'm pretty sure it'll pop up. It won't be the greatest story, let me tell you, because it's one of the modern stories from that really bleak period before the new 52. But you know, it's an example of Oliver being dark. But most of his freaking publication history, his stories were a lot more lighthearted and a lot, you know, lighter, a lot more like the tone we get in the Flash. I like the fact in the Flash that I guess this would be number, I don't know, 2 or 3. Um, he's surrounded by characters who, if you know their real name, you know their by just by hearing and reading the you know their real name, you know that some of them are destined to become other characters. You know, like Caitlin Snow, she's destined to become Killer Frost. Freaking Cisco Ramon, Vibe. Like, it's awesome that they put these things there so that if they want to go in that direction, they can. And something would really have to happen dramatically to get the characters to go to that place, especially with Caitlin, you know? So I like that. I like the fact that they mentioned with Firestorm, they've mentioned the whole crew except for the other jock. And they may have, like Ronnie Raymond's, not Ronnie, um, Jason Rush, his partner. They didn't mention him yet. But they've mentioned Jason, they've mentioned Ronnie, and the professor. So you're already kind of like, wow, that's parts, it's aspects of this character's world that you've already seen. You've already seen characters like Jason Rush. I don't know why I keep on mispronouncing his name, but Jason Rush becomes the second Firestorm. If they ever have an issue, there you go. So you know how they have the ability to clean up Caitlin and Ronnie's story, you know, and then move on to another character. Legacy. Legacy's huge with DC, and it's something that we've yet to see on screen, with the exception of maybe the old Supergirl films, which kind of didn't exactly have much to do with the originals because you didn't have Superman in them. But and this one is once again a separate universe. This new Supergirl that's coming out, so it's kind of strange. But I'm just glad, and I love seeing this approach. It makes you feel like, at least it makes me feel like there's hope. Like maybe what is this, season 4 of Arrow will have it will have the actual green Arrow, you know, green and red Arrow. Um, it would be nice for them to, you know, with the next season of The Flash, make his costume red instead of fucking burgundy. Those are the kind of changes that I'm waiting to see. Embrace everything. Because the costume is still shit in my opinion. It's not as bad as it was when I first saw it, but it's too many surfaces and too many different types of material. It needs to be one slick material, like a speed skater suit. I mean, with, you know, with tweaks, obviously, because it's got to look cool. It can't just look like straight up tights, but it needs to be more of a giant onesie that's smooth and has, you know, all the details on it. Even if it's a bitch to get into, I don't give a shit. But a jacket and pants, no, no, just no, no. Um, but you know, besides that, because that's, you know me, characters and costumes. That's my department, and I always complain about these things if they're not done right. Um, but they're so close; they're almost perfect. It's almost the best that we've seen on television. Um, I just hope that we get more of, you know, goodness and not that manufactured shit where it's like they blew the competition away, and now it's like, okay, you have to do better than what you did last season, and everybody chokes and gives us the lamest, most derivative, most, you know, corporate bullshit that you possibly could get. I hope and pray we don't get that, because I enjoy having a show to look forward to outside of my one anime that I watch, which is Unlimited Blade Works, Fate Stay Night on Unlimited Blade Works. I love that shit. The Fate series is by far the best anime. It's like probably one of the best anime series ever. Um, I really, really love that show. But anyway, it's nice to have something else to watch. And I don't know, the fact that it's a DC something or other. And you know, I've been kind of like hurting for that, because like I said, I don't really care about the DC cinematic universe, but it wouldn't hurt to have a couple good, you know, cinematic examples or offerings that have DC characters, you know? I want to see Blue Beetle. Either one, I don't care. I want to see him on screen, you know? When Young Justice was on, I was so happy to see Blue Beetle and Black Beetle and all that craziness, the Reach and all that shit. I was like, damn, that's dope. And the fact that they even made reference in Brave and the Bold to Ted Kord. That kind of stuff makes me happy. I want to see Wally West. I really want to see Wally West. I don't care if he's black. I don't care if he's white. I don't care. I just want the character there. Because you had Barry go out with Wally's future wife. You know, the mother of his damn kids. I think Wally has an interesting arc. And if something was to happen to Barry, like it does in the DC universe, or did, I guess, because they've undone it with. I mean, have they gone back yet? Convergence is still happening, so I guess they're in the process of going back. But it would be cool to see what happens when someone else has the same situation happen to them, because Wally kind of followed in Barry's footsteps. I mean, there's going to need to be a lot of development, but it'll be nice to see them handle Wally West, because he's by far, next to Jay, Wally is my favorite Flash. I love Jay Garrick because he's an old dude, and I love how they handled the JSA, at least in the like mid '90s. You know, the way that they were giving back their youth, and they kind of they're still really old school, but they're in modern times. So to see the originals, you know, kind of do their thing, it's always dope, you know. Characters like that we've seen fucked up, like Wildcat. Oh man, they did him so dirty on the Flash. Like, he's so lame, but the character of Wildcat is such a beast, and he's like an old guy. You know what I mean? Like, I like that, and I want to see that. The fact that they even showed us Jay Garrick's helmet, I was clapping like a freaking seal. I'm like, I was so happy. I'm like, that's Jay Garrick's helmet. Oh my god, or his hat. I was so happy to see that shit. A lot of the slow-mo punches, you know, and the supersonic punch, you know, and the fact that you have Cisco getting excited about the stuff that we would get excited about as the audience if we know what's coming or we understand what's coming. All that stuff just makes me happy. And I'm so glad that they do it, because it shows that they understand the material, you know? And nothing's better than seeing a translation in which the translator understands the material. That's why I don't get all you guys that are like, it's the TV series, it's supposed to be different, or it's the movie, it's supposed to be different. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? If I'm watching a biopic about Muhammad Ali, I want to see Muhammad Ali's life on screen. I don't want to watch the biopic of Muhammad Ali and then see Chuck Norris's life on screen. So what the fuck are you talking about? Because it's a movie, it has to be different than the material that it's based on? Come back to earth and pay attention, you know? It's like looking up the definition of one word and getting another definition instead. Or it's like, you know, when you're doing your quote unquote research and you're looking up your research on females, and then you find something else, you know, you find dogs. It's like, wait, what? I was looking for boobies. Why did I get dogs? You know what I mean? Or you buy a beer and your beer is full of piss. You know what I mean? You get a bottle of beer, you pay whatever it costs, you crack it open, you drink it, and it's piss. Like, that's not what you paid for. That's not what you were expecting. So, you know, it's not what it says on the package. So that's not what you should get. So, you know, I don't understand that way of thinking. And I'm glad that we have an example, a shining example of, you know, that a shining example that solidifies and illustrates my point that it can be done right. You just have to understand and, you know, not be ashamed of the source material. That's it. Plain and simple. And then you trim the fat, you cut whatever you need to cut that doesn't work, because a lot of stuff in comics is filler. Cut out a lot of that filler, but get right to the point. Then you drag it out the way that TV does, and there you go. You have a winner. It's not as hard as people make it seem. It's actually pretty simple. So I am just really happy that this show exists. I hope it gets better. I'm just waiting to see more. I'm excited for Legends of Tomorrow. It looks pretty good. It looks like it's embracing more of the weirdness. It's funny too, because when that show came out, I was like, watch Vandal Savage be the villain. Because he's low key and he's a lesser known villain, and they don't use him too much in the mainstream DCU. Guess what? Vandal Savage is the main villain of that series. So I like that. You know, it's a lot of time traveling and alternate universe type shit. So it's going to be interesting. And they brought back the Canary. And it's funny because none of us guessed that she was going to be the White Canary. I don't know, like, the biggest amount. I read a handful of the kind of more recent Birds of Prey, and I did read ones where she was wearing a White Canary costume, but I don't know what the change was for. I never did the research, so it was kind of like, why didn't anybody just think of that? Just she's going to be a canary. She's just going to come back. We knew it was going to be via the pits, the Lazarus pits, but she just becomes freaking the White Canary. But I'm happy. I love it. I love it. I'll watch Katie Lotz do whatever. You should check out some of her breakdancing. She's pretty decent. But yeah, they're doing their thing on television this time, and I'm kind of, you know, I'm happy about it. I like The Flash a lot. A lot of the other stuff, I'm kind of annoyed that they cut off Constantine. I had a feeling that they would, because it's supernatural, and they usually don't like, unless it's made by a network. If it's got demons and, you know, that kind of shit, it's not gonna last. They always cut that kind of stuff off. The Buffy days are long gone. But you know, I don't know much about. I don't know how I feel about Supergirl. I'm glad that she's getting a series. The costume looks better in the show than it did in the promo pics, because it actually is blue and red with the yellow belts, and not burgundy and like deep dark blue, you know, like navy blue. It's actually like royal blue and a bright kind of chromatic red and a nice red, yellow for the belt. And you see versions of the costume too. So, you know, I guess you understand how she ended up where she ended up at. And she's not, it doesn't look slutty, and it doesn't look as cheap as it looked in that first promo pic. Good God, that promo pic was terrible. That's why they should stop copying off of, like, it's like they're trying too hard to be the best of both worlds. If you're not going to fully embrace the movie aesthetic, then don't do anything that represents the movies. Keep your shit separate, you know? I really do wish, though, that everything was connected, because that's the backstory for a lot of things that we will see on the big screen. And it would be nice to do it on television where you can explore it in a more, you know, episodic nature or fashion. And then we can go see the big shit breaking on screen. You know what I mean? That would be awesome. But some exec at DC and Warner Brothers is just not getting it. You know what I'm saying? They just don't get it. Just like, you know, they're not starting with a Justice League movie and then making the individual stuff. They have the household names. The Avengers still aren't. I guess now they're more household names, but, you know, 5-6 years ago they weren't. So it's kind of strange that they wouldn't play their cards the best way that they could. But, you know, whatever. Anyway, The Flash, though, if you haven't seen it, you need to do yourself a favor and watch it. If you like comic books and you like superheroes, then you kind of need to watch The Flash. Not, you don't kind of need to, you need to watch it. It's worth your time. It'll make you a believer that, you know, a lot of shit that people have said is impossible, it is possible. And, you know, you'll have fun along the way. And that's what this is all about. It's been a while since you, at least for me, I watched a show that was fun, you know, and still got everything right. You'll get pissed off at Iris. Everybody's pissed off at Iris. Iris sucks. But, besides that, it's a winner. So anyway, I'm Strident. That's my story. I'm sticking to it, and I will catch you later. Peace outside.